What happens when the son of one of America's most controversial presidents calls out a rising political star, labeling her unfit on a national platform? And what if, just when it looked like his words might stick, a single unexpected recording turned the entire narrative upside down live and in front of millions? This isn't just another political feud. This is the story of Barron Trump versus Zohran Mamdani, a story that gripped the nation, rewrote public perception, and sent shockwaves through the halls of power. By the end of this video, you'll know why this moment will be remembered for years and why it nearly changed everything for both of them. Let's break down the real story behind the headlines. You're about to see how a single accusation, an overlooked politician, and one hidden recording collided to spark one of the most dramatic political confrontations of recent times. So buckle up. This is not fiction. This is not tabloid gossip. This is the real high-stakes drama that unfolded on live television, with reputations, futures, and the truth itself all hanging in the balance. Here's what really happened. Zohran Mamdani wasn't supposed to be a headline grabber. She wasn't from a political dynasty, didn't have millions in campaign funding, and certainly didn't have the mainstream media behind her. Yet she built a reputation as a fearless advocate, someone who spoke her mind and fought for the people who didn't usually have a voice. Community organizer, activist, then a progressive political force in New York, she challenged the status quo, called out injustice, and took on opponents far more established than her. Her campaigns were grassroots. She was out in neighborhoods, listening, not just talking. This approach earned her loyalty and respect, but also made her a target. In a world where politics often favors power and connections, her authenticity stood out and ruffled feathers. Her speeches went viral. Clips of her grilling establishment figures made rounds on social media, earning both admiration and fierce criticism. But nothing in her journey so far could have prepared her for what was about to come, a direct clash. With the Trump name, Barron Trump had always been a background figure during his father's presidency. But as he grew older, he started making his own waves appearing at events, speaking at select rallies, hinting at ambitions beyond the shadow of his famous father. The media, always hungry for a new Trump headline, latched onto every word. Barron was careful, selective about his public comments, but he didn't shy away from sharing opinions, especially on issues he felt passionate about: youth engagement, education, American values. In recent months, he had been increasingly vocal about the need for fitness and leadership. Not just physical fitness, but moral, intellectual, and emotional fitness. He positioned himself as a new voice for his generation, someone who could see through political posturing and demand real accountability. His growing influence meant his words mattered, and when he decided to call out Zohran Mamdani directly, it sent ripples through the political world. Why would Barron target her? Was it just politics or something more personal? It started on a Friday afternoon with a single social media post. Barron Trump, in a live interview with a major news network, was asked about the rise of progressive voices in American politics. Without hesitation, he pivoted to Zohran Mamdani. Frankly, I don't think someone like Zohran Mamdani is fit to lead, he said, his tone measured but sharp. We need leaders who represent all Americans, who put country above ideology. There are some people out there who seem more interested in division than unity. I'm not sure that's the kind of person we need in our government. The statement was bold, even for a Trump. Within minutes, it was everywhere: news tickers, social feeds, political blogs. Supporters of Barron echoed his words, painting Zohran as an unfit radical. Critics called it a baseless attack. Zohran's own supporters rushed to her defense, but the narrative was already spinning out of control. News anchors debated the meaning of unfit. Was it a reference to her policies? Her background? Was it dog whistle politics or genuine? Critique of leadership style. Overnight, hashtags like hashtag Unfit or hashtag stand with COHR and trended across platforms. But what really stung was how quickly the accusation became the headline. Instead of talking about her ideas or achievements, everyone was now talking about whether Zohran Mamdani was fit for office, a narrative that threatened to overshadow her entire career. Her staff tried to get ahead of the story, releasing statements, arranging interviews, emphasizing her track record. But the more they pushed back, the louder the question became, was there something the public didn't know? Meanwhile, Barron stood by his words. He doubled down in subsequent interviews, saying he spoke for millions who were tired of extremists. On the left, he pointed to specific votes, speeches, even rumors circulating online. The pressure mounted. This wasn't just a social media spat. It was a full-blown political battle, and it looked like Barron had the upper hand. Zohran Mamdani knew she couldn't ignore the accusation. Her advisors urged caution, issue a statement, keep it professional, don't take the bait. But Zohran was never one to play it safe when it came to speaking her truth. She agreed to appear on the same network that had hosted Barron. In her opening remarks, she refused to get personal. This isn't about me, she began. It's about the issues facing our country. But if we want to talk about fitness to lead, let's have that conversation. Let's talk about who's really putting in the work for everyday Americans and who's just using their name for attention. Her response was calm, but there was fire beneath the surface. She walked through her record, the hours spent in communities, the policies she'd championed, the time she'd stood up to her own party for what she believed was right. She turned the spotlight back on Barron, questioning whether he truly understood the realities facing working people, or whether he was just repeating talking points from a political bubble. Calling someone unfit without evidence is not leadership, she declared. It's bullying. And I refuse to be bullied. The moment was powerful. Her supporters rallied, but critics remained unswayed. Some media outlets replayed her appearance, dissecting every word, questioning her tone, her body language. It seemed for a while that the debate was locked in place, with each side dug in and no new ground being won. But Zohran wasn't done. In the days that followed, she quietly worked behind the scenes. She sifted through emails, campaign footage, meeting transcripts. She knew there was more to the story, and she was determined to find it. Her team started connecting dots, piecing together a timeline that suggested Barron's attack might not have been as spontaneous as it seemed. Then, the recording was from a closed-door meeting, a single recording that would change the trajectory of the entire story. It featured several high-profile political strategists, campaign aides, and most importantly, a clear, unmistakable voice, Barron Trump himself. In the recording, Barron could be heard discussing media tactics, referencing specific politicians, and strategizing about how to shift the narrative in the weeks leading up to a major legislative vote. His words were clear. If we can paint Mamdani as unfit, we can get people to stop listening to her. We don't need to debate her. Ideas if people think she's not even qualified. The conversation wasn't illegal, but it was revealing. Here was proof that the attack wasn't a genuine personal conviction or spontaneous reaction. It was a calculated political strategy, meant to sideline an opponent by attacking her credibility rather than engaging with her ideas. Zohran's team carefully verified the authenticity of the recording. They reached out to legal counsel, double-checked transcripts, and coordinated with allies in the media. The moment they were confident in its validity, Zohran decided to make her move. She didn't release the recording online. She didn't leak it to the press. Instead, she asked for another live interview with the same network, requesting that Barron appear as well for a candid discussion on leadership. The media jumped at the chance. Headlines blared about the upcoming face-off. Millions tuned. and eager to see the next round of this escalating feud. When the day came, Zohran arrived composed and ready. Barron, too, appeared confident, likely expecting to repeat his message and control the narrative. The moderator opened with the obvious question. Barron, do you stand by your comments that Zohran Mamdani is unfit to lead? He did, in fact. He doubled down again, listing grievances, policy disagreements, and repeating lines about fitness. He painted himself as a concerned citizen, not a political actor. That's when Zohran spoke. She thanked Barron for sharing his views, then calmly reached for her phone. I appreciate your honesty, she said, but I think the American people deserve a little more transparency. There's a recording I think we should all hear, a conversation that happened before your first interview, where you and your team planned how to attack my character rather than my ideas. The moderator paused, surprised. Barron's expression shifted for the first time, uncertainty flickering across his face. Zohran played the recording. The words were unmistakable. Barron strategizing, orchestrating an attack not based on principle, but political advantage. The moderators listened in stunned silence. For the first time, the power dynamic shifted. When the recording ended, there was a long pause. Then Zohran spoke. This is the real issue. Not whether I am fit to lead, but whether we are willing to have honest debates about our future. Are we going to let politics become a game of personal destruction, or will we demand better from those who aspire to lead? The effect was immediate and electric. Newsrooms exploded with coverage. Social media feeds lit up. The narrative flipped overnight. Where Zohran had once been the accused, now she was the whistleblower, exposing the behind-the-scenes machinations of political power. Pundits and commentators weighed in. Some condemned Barron's tactics, calling them cynical and manipulative. Others insisted that all politicians play hardball, but even they struggled to defend the calculated nature of the recording. For Barron, the fallout was swift. His allies scrambled to distance themselves, issuing statements that the comments were taken out of context or that politics is a tough game. But for many Americans watching at home, the truth was clear. This wasn't just politics. As usual, this was an attempt to silence a rising voice, not by debate, but by smear. Zohran's approval ratings soared. Donations poured into her campaign. She became a symbol not just of resilience, but of transparency and courage. Interviews flooded in. Magazine covers featured her story. Supporters rallied in cities across the country, but Zohran didn't gloat. In her public statements, she urged a return to substantive debate, reminding everyone that the real issues were the challenges facing ordinary Americans. She refused to let the story become just about personalities. Barron, meanwhile, faded from the headlines. For weeks, he avoided interviews, citing a need to focus on private matters. Rumors swirled about behind-the-scenes fallout, with campaign advisors resigning and donors pulling support. The confrontation had exposed more than just one tactical smear campaign. It shone a light on the toxic nature of modern politics, the power of media manipulation, and the way real conversations about policy and progress often get buried under waves of negativity. For Zohran, the episode was both vindication and warning. Even when you're right, you can still lose the narrative unless you're willing to fight for the truth. No matter the cost, why did this story matter so much? Because it revealed how easily narratives can be hijacked, reputations built or destroyed with a single phrase, a single headline, a single clip. It reminded the country that in a world of instant information and viral moments, the truth is both more important and more vulnerable than ever. For Zohran Mamdani, the lesson was clear. Never underestimate the lengths to which some will go to protect their power. But also, never underestimate the public's ability to see through the noise if you trust them with the truth. The recording changed everything. Not because it exposed something illegal, but because it pulled back the curtain on political theater. It revealed how even accusations made in the name of the people can be orchestrated by teams who care more about winning than serving. For Barron Trump, the episode was a harsh initiation into the realities of public life. It's easy to attack. It's much harder to answer when the spotlight turns back on you. For a moment, his words shaped the national conversation. But in the end, it was a moment of transparency, of honesty, of courage in the face of smear that really made the difference. As the story faded from the daily headlines, its impact lingered. Politicians across the country took note. If you're going to attack, be ready to defend, not just your positions, but your methods. If you're going to lead, be prepared for your own words and tactics to be held up to the light. So, what can we learn from the Barron Trump-Zohran Mamdani confrontation? Politics isn't just about policy. It's about narratives and who gets to control them. It's about who gets to define fitness and what happens when someone fights back. Not with more attacks, but with the truth. Zohran Mamdani's refusal to be silenced, her insistence on transparency, and her courage to stand up even when the entire machine seemed stacked against her, offer a blueprint for anyone who wants to change the system. She proved that the truth still matters, that character still counts, and that sometimes the most powerful weapon is simply refusing to play by the rules of the smear. The next time you hear a politician labeled as unfit, ask yourself, who's saying it and why? Look beyond the headlines, the talking points, the viral clips. Dig deeper, demand evidence. And most importantly, demand that our leaders debate ideas, not just attack opponents. If you're watching this, you're part of that conversation. You have the power to shape the narrative, to elevate truth over tactics, and to support leaders who put the public first. If you found this story compelling, share it. Don't let smear campaigns define our politics. Let's build a future where ideas win over insults, where truth wins over tactics, and where leaders are held to the highest standard, not just of fitness, but of integrity. Thank you for watching. If you want more stories that go beyond the headlines, hit subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Together, we can keep the conversation honest and hold our leaders to account.